Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzales, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Last day of 2024. We're back with more podcasts. Lessons learned. This has been a big year for us, hon.
Huge.
And I'm sure it's been for you, Mr. or Mrs. Listener. We want to reflect back on 2024 and look at some of the impactful things that occurred in our life and what we learned from them. And so I'm a big believer of mistakes versus mentors. You learn in different ways. You can learn it on your own through trials and tribulations, or you can learn it from somebody else. And, you know, I think mentors take many shapes in life.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's just a good friend.
Yep.
And
it can be a simple thing that they say. It does not have to be you're sitting down with them, you pay them, nothing like that. It doesn't have to be that. If you're out there looking for ways to improve or get the answers and you're just looking, you'll see it everywhere. They're everywhere.
They are. And speaking of mentors, when we reflect back on 2024, one of our greatest mentors is the youngest member of our family.
Yeah.
So this year on June 15th, our son August was born. And in looking at the 4 or 5 big lessons that we learned this year that we're going to share with you today, a lot of it came directly back to the birth of our second son and, you know, things that occurred leading up to that and, of course, after that.
Absolutely. You think about it, and when your family grows or something changes in your life, you do have to reassess. Is what we're doing working, and what would we do differently from our experiences in the past? So that's really what we did this year, and we're really excited to share what it is that we've learned. And we hope that you can take what we've learned and see how it can apply in your life and look at stuff that's happening in your life and then gain something from that. Maybe it's perspective, and look to the future with how you can make things happen. You know, if you're somebody that hasn't been able to make goals happen, you set goals, but they don't really happen, maybe this can help you maybe have a reframe.
I think we've got something really powerful in regards to that today. I know that we have some lessons that we learned that pertain directly to our family and how we're going to operate moving forward. We have some big stuff around self-care. I think every mom, dad, business owner probably lacks in this department to some level.
Yeah.
And we've extracted something here for you today. Another big thing was our relationships, just, you know, in general, both personal and business. And
Absolutely.
Of course, we're going to wrap some stuff up with our biggest business lesson, which I'm excited to reveal.
Yeah.
So
I'm really excited about this.
Let's talk about family first. We'll start with the family, and then we'll make our way all the way back around to business. Should we just start with the lesson?
Absolutely.
Come out
Let's
with
do it. Yep.
Okay, so the lesson that we learned in regards to family is that you can fit everything in around family, but you can't fit family in around everything else.
Yeah, and what that really means is, you know, if you have stuff with your family, like for us, we don't really have like events necessarily that we take our children to, like soccer and school and all these different things because they're too young right now. But when you think about all the things that you want to do with your family and you schedule those first, and then you look at all of the other things, it's easier to make those other things fit as opposed to the other way around. So if your schedule is so full of business stuff, where does your family fit in? Well, maybe it doesn't. But also maybe your priorities are a little bit different. Maybe you don't have a huge priority around family. I mean, if most of our listeners probably have a huge priority around families.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
But sometimes that's not the priority, or we haven't figured out yet that it is the priority, and that the fact that it's the lack of priority is why we're continually failing on those goals, possibly.
And as we've spoken about on previous podcasts, I think 2 episodes ago, when stuff is handled in your family unit, everything else just seems to go better.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there were a couple things that came up for us that made us realize, well, yeah, we have to schedule this way versus the other way around.
Right.
One of those was potty training.
Yes.
So potty training our now 2.5-year-old influenced everything about our schedule.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you just count just the couple of weeks, up to a month, I think it was up to a month for us, because we had done it over Labor Day weekend. We'd started the journey, that you just have consistent time for them, him, whoever your child is at home, where they are close to a potty, they can go naked or whatever that looks like for you and your family. And it really did change everything. When we thought about going out, what are some of the different considerations we have to take?
Well, so one of the big things is I ended up doing almost all of the grocery shopping.
You did.
Versus we usually kind of split that.
Right. But for me, it was like, I'm home with a baby, because he was like 3 months, June, July, August. Yeah, he was like 3 months old at that time. And he was just getting to the point where things were getting consistent with maybe some more sleep and some eating. And so you were really in charge of that. But some of the things that it changed was like, you would go out grocery shopping with him, which is some of the things we do to keep him entertained and doing other things out of the house. You would stop at the bathroom first off and let him go potty, and you'd prep him for how loud it would be in a new space and all the different things, and understanding that this was such a new thing for him, but really keeping that forefront in our minds when we go out.
Well, it was like, we can't go stop at 3 places or 4 places right now. It's got to be just one at home.
Yes.
So yeah, we had to rethink
strategy.
everything about our schedule. That was just the home front, but then that impacted how I scheduled business meetings. That impacted how I was scheduling time at the gym. Like basically everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that was just like one small example. But there was another big one for you.
Yeah. Breastfeeding was also a big thing. It took different kinds of consideration, and then the emotional side, and it fed into the business. So it changed how I functioned in the business, because there were so many frequent feedings and then naps and all the different things. But the benefits of breastfeeding for me, the emotional side was that I actually accomplished it. I'm successful at having the opportunity to breastfeed him, and it working and not being super painful and feeling like I needed to quit because it just wasn't working very well. So that's been amazing, and I have felt like I've been able to, there are just so many things that I've been able to do, and it takes less time and thought, because when you go out with a kid that's breastfeeding, you don't have to bring all the gear to feed him with a bottle.
Sure.
So that's the wonderful thing. So of the things that we've done this year that really influenced us is we're really prioritizing family and the time that we have with our family and our boys. And if it goes over like a nap time or feeding, all those different things, that influences whether we do or don't participate.
Yeah,
for the first couple of months of their life.
I think there are 2 days this year where Lincoln went without his nap.
Yes.
And that was the sacrifice we were willing to make. That was like 4th of July.
Yep.
And
then
then
I think it was
the other day.
Balloon Fiesta.
Oh,
a couple of
maybe
times.
a couple times.
So evening and then mornings and stuff.
And so everything else has gone around that though. It's like we don't go out anywhere. We're home by 5:36.
Yeah.
And we'll talk
our
about
boys deserve to sleep.
We'll talk about that a little bit more and the impacts it's had on our relationships.
Yeah.
But I think the next thing, so maybe we restate that, right? So our lesson from family this year was that you can fit everything in around family, but you can't fit family in around everything else. It just doesn't work.
Not for us.
Not for us. So this one's about self-care, for lack of a better label.
Yeah. Putting ourselves first, putting on our own mask first, and name it whatever you want. But it's being willing to say we have needs and they deserve to be met.
So the lesson we learned this year was that mom and dad need personal time to rest and recharge.
And for us, it started with the gym initially, back in 2022.
It's true.
So it did start there.
It did.
And that was the one thing we got.
Yeah, it wasn't the rest. We just got the recharge.
Right.
And I think that we got away with it for a while with one child.
Yep.
Not having date nights.
Yep.
Not having scheduled downtime for one person or the other.
Right.
It
was easier to say, okay, I'll hold him for a bit, you go take a break. Or vice versa. But then it just, you add one more variable and you've got a lot more variables.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we realized is that you just start to go too long without this self-care or this time that you can afford each other. And then you find yourself in a desperate need suddenly one day.
Yeah.
And so big things that we've done this year are adding date night.
Yeah. big deal.
I mean, we've been doing that now. We've had some interruption in schedule over holidays and things like
Sure,
that.
but it's very, very seldom and it's much less.
But we've had this now for like 4 months, 5 months maybe.
Something like that, yeah. Well, and just keeping in mind too, the thought about self-care is that it's really, really important. We have found it to be really important because raising children is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Let's just be real about that. They're with us, we love them, and they deserve the care that they require. And we've got to remember that in a marathon, you got to stop for a break. You got to eat. You got to go to the bathroom. Those are the basic things that when you're thinking about that, about a marathon versus a sprint. It's over pretty quick with a sprint. So there are some things that we've done that contributed to our self-care, us taking care of ourselves, the things that we've chosen to do this year that otherwise were not the same or weren't happening. You know, you mentioned date night. There's one thing that it's a tool that you use that you found that really helps you calm down or also just not get to your limit when you are needing to be with the boys and it's just not the ideal volume that you'd like.
Yeah, I'm like heavily stimulated by too much noise, especially when I'm already at a certain threshold.
Yeah.
So my cousin Emma visited like back in April or something like that, and she had these little earplugs, these loop earplugs, and I was like, wait, those aren't sound canceling? She's like, no, they're like regular earplugs, and then you can turn up or turn down what amount of sound you will let in, so you can still hear what's going on.
Right.
I was like, that's brilliant.
And they're really comfortable too.
So I got some of those earplugs, and I mean, I use them every single week through different circumstances. And what does it allow me to do? I can still hear my kids. I'm still aware of what's going on.
They're still safe because you can hear what's going on. Yep.
But I don't have to take the brunt and be the punching bag for that sound.
Right.
When I can't take it.
You go from 0 to 1,000 really, really quickly if the level is too high. So there are times when I'll notice that you might as well just be trembling for how I see that you're feeling. And I'll just say, hey, go put your earplugs on. And it's like, I'm shocked if they're not in your pocket for one, and that you can just pop them in. But it does really, really help. So that's one of the things that you've found out about yourself. And then for me, I found that I just needed extra sleep. And in a house where the baby is sleeping in the master bedroom for the naps, Lincoln has run of the house. He has his room, the living area, all the different places, and then the office
is being utilized as an office.
Office is being utilized by you. I need a nap. Where do I go? Yeah. Well, we found a solution. I go to the garage. We have a couch in the garage. It's fabulous. And I've been able to get some rest. So that for me is when I'm at a certain level, it's probably because I've not had enough sleep. We are taking care of that now with me getting more sleep at night, August eating at 10 p.m. and then 6 a.m. So I'm getting a really good block of sleep. But sleep for me is where it's at. I gotta have sleep.
I think, well, maybe round it out on this one is something that I realized this year was you get to a certain point where you literally can't see for yourself what you require.
Yeah.
And it does take me coming in and saying, okay, this is not working. Here's what I need you to do.
Well, and you also say, hey, go do this. I've got the boys.
Yep.
Or go do this. You know that a nap could help me. We've talked about that. You can afford that for me. Sometimes there are times when I'll skip the gym in the morning.
To take a nap.
Lincoln doesn't even see me. And that's normal for the gym days. So I will go out, take a nap, and I will come into the house like I came back from the gym. And he doesn't know any different. So it does create that space for me.
And we did another episode in the past about sleep. I would definitely go check that out. We'll put it in the show notes. If you go to babiesandbiz.com/64, this is episode 64, you can see all the show notes, other things that we're talking about here. Let's move to the next one. But yeah, lesson from self-care, mom and dad need personal time to rest and recharge. So let's talk about relationships, and then we're gonna round out with some business stuff.
Yeah, so we found ourselves auditing who we spent our time with, like we would our bank account.
Why?
Because just like money, which is a finite amount, our time is also finite. And we found that spending time with certain people just zapped us of that energy. So not only did they not add energy to us, they took way more than we had. So sometimes we'd come home deficit
Yeah. Well,
in the red. So we were able to find out who it works for us to spend time with. Sometimes it's those people that have kids. and understand our schedule and our priorities.
So it's these conclusions that Rachel's talking about that came from the necessity to audit our time.
Yeah.
Because with a second child, then it was, even less
more
time,
squeezed.
right? Even more squeezed. And then, as you know, having young children, you kind of lose the time that you would have in the evenings to do other things.
Right.
Because you're going to be at home.
Right.
The majority of the
You
time.
can't go out and spend the time with other people and do the different things unless they're going to come to you. That's an option.
And, here and there you can go out and do that. But as you know, you pay the price the next day or the next 2 days if you go past bedtimes. Like, you can do that, but you're going to pay for it.
I know I do. If
Right?
if I have an 8-hour stretch and I can go to sleep and I choose to stay up 2 hours into that 8-hour stretch, oh boy.
You pay for it, right? And so...
And not just the next day. For me, it could be weeks before I make that up again.
It's true. And so it was from being so squeezed that we would look at it and be like, I've got a meeting scheduled with so-and-so. And it's like, you look at it and go, well, I got other things I need to do right now because time is squeezed. We've discussed this over and over in every episode we've done so far.
Yep.
And there's probably somebody else I would rather spend the time with.
Right. Well, when you're squeezed, it's like, okay, so if I can only do this and this and this, and I only have X amount of time, what are those things that I can fit into that time?
And you start chopping. And you start getting, like, in a weird way, kind of ruthless about it. So we realized that there were, people that we're spending time with who don't have kids.
Yeah.
Who, because they don't have kids, don't understand certain things like, well, we got to get back by a certain time,
Right.
or we got to think about food, or we got to think about an activity for them to do, or
Right.
this, that, and the other.
Yep.
And because they're not of the same mind, they get less of the time.
Right.
And it's not a personal thing.
No way. Well, and then also we became really aware of those people that they're just not our people, for one reason or another.
You might like some aspect of them that really draws you to them, but
Right.
maybe that's the only box that they really check,
Right.
right? Like,
But honestly, when I'm exhausted, if it's someone that doesn't fill me up in some way energetically, it is so exhausting to come away from that and feel like, yet again, I have to pick myself up again. Sometimes you need those people that they don't have to give, they just need to not take energy.
it just became so obvious who those people were after all of our time got taken away.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's just where the lesson came from.
Yeah.
Is because of the time squeeze, then we started looking at it, then we made these realizations. And so I think what I pose to our listeners is you can audit and you can look at this stuff before you don't have the time.
Right.
And choose these relationships and things that are really fill you up. I'm just realizing, with some of our, quote, best friends that we have now, if it weren't for things like BNI, we wouldn't see them hardly at all.
Correct.
And so when you look at the next 5 years and, if you see your friend once a quarter or once a month, I mean, you're only going to spend that much time with them.
Right.
That's interesting. So then you start talking about taking time away from those really great friends and giving it to new people or people that maybe don't check all the boxes.
Right.
That's like if you were talking about that, how you spend your money,
I just think that it's
Dave Ramsey would go nuts on you.
right. I just think right here is we're just suggesting that possibly you look at what it is that you want. Priority is family, and you want to spend that time with those that you love. That could be your family, that could be the person that you're with, your spouse, and then who else? There are only a couple of other people that make the cut right now. That won't always be the case, but for right now, who is that? And be willing to say, this does work for me or this doesn't work for me. Maybe you have a sister that's really toxic. Why are you hanging out with her? Why are you spending your time with her? If you come away and you feel drained and maybe a little bit depressed and all sorts of stuff are happening, maybe just take a break for a bit and see how that feels. I have 10 siblings. I don't enjoy all of them. I connect with 2 sisters and a brother right now, and that's it. I have 7 sisters and 3 brothers. I don't connect with everybody.
Sure.
My parents are passed, so I can't connect with them, but make those choices. Is the only reason why you're spending the time with the people that you're spending time with is that they are your blood or you're obligated to. Those are kind of bad decisions or bad reasons to make those decisions.
Well, I looked at like even my BNI stuff that I'm doing and people that are in my group as an example. It's like, well, you're going to mesh with certain people really well and others you're going to, get along with.
Right.
Or maybe you don't get along with them.
Right.
But those people that you're really going to limit your time with.
Yeah, and really spend time with those that you do mesh with, because really we want to do business with the people that we know, like, and trust. So put more time into that so that they can and you can get to know, like, and trust them more.
Yeah. So the lesson, you have to audit who you spend time with like you would your bank account.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to be broke. All right. This one's the one we've all been waiting for. But everything kind of leads to this because all the stuff that we talked about informs the business lesson.
Yeah.
That I think it's not that we learned it as much as we lived it.
Yeah.
So have you ever had a goal that felt pretty, would we say hollow, flimsy? Like, you should have one, so you put something together. I mean, you might even put quite a bit of thought into it. But
and maybe it sounds really good.
Yeah. Or it makes sense with where you're going.
Right.
But then you never get there or you hardly take any steps towards getting there.
Right. And you look back maybe at whatever checkpoint you have, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's yearly, and you see, oh, wow, that didn't happen yet again. What are some of the things that we do when we see goals aren't happening in our life?
Well, we have to evaluate why we want them.
Right.
And why we want them. And what are our priorities?
Exactly. And does it really matter? Like, if it's still not happening, is this really the heart and soul of what we want? Is this embodying what we want?
Is this important?
Yeah, right? So, what we've found is when we've made goals that have this, that follows this
format,
if we have a goal and then we say, so that we can X, they always happen.
Or because.
We want this because. We want this so that we can have this or do this. It happens.
Yeah.
So
great example is if we go back like 5 years when Rachel joined the business, one of the first questions we had to ask was how much money do we need to make in the business so that we can support our household?
Right.
We had to kind of find the magic number so that we weren't drawing too much money or whatever.
Right.
And we found at that time, years ago, we just needed to make $13,000 a month in the business.
Right.
So that.
The bare minimum.
So that we could, I think we were trying to.
Whatever it was. We just remember that sum.
Yep.
And we got it.
And that would provide enough for our household for us to be comfortable and not be overdrawing and things like that.
Right.
Yep.
And this year we had a goal, and it was actually a goal for before we had August, a financial goal, and we met it actually to the dollar.
Which is weird.
Probably about a month before he was born.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really exciting. We were so stoked. But it was because we had, after the goal, it was because the goal, because XYZ, because we need to replace me in this role, or we need this, or we need to hire, whatever that is, it was always followed with a reason why.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, it was, and if you go back, we've got another episode, we was, getting ready for baby part 2.
Yep.
The second edition.
Yep.
So you go back and see that. We did a lot of budgeting and a lot of planning for all the things that would come up as a part of having another child. And that, along with the already established budgets and things we had in the works, further informed our business goals that then, would dictate all this other stuff.
Well, and absolutely. So very, very excited about that. And that was one of the breakthroughs that we had, was we realized how we set goals that actually got accomplished. Because we've had goals that haven't been accomplished, that go months and quarters and years that don't get done. And we look back and we're beating ourselves up about it. But really, when we get down to it, if it doesn't have the because we do this so that, or we do this because, it doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
Because it actually aligns with our goals, our actual hard and fast goals.
Yeah, we feel like we need to accomplish these things, and therefore it occurs.
And then we do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to talk about some of those things that actually were what transpired this year.
Mm-hmm.
We needed Avram more in the business.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons. I'm the one that's going to create all the processes.
You're a strategist.
I have the vision for how we're going to
Absolutely.
continue to get results for our clients in this new age of AI.
Yep.
A lot of things changing, blah, blah, blah. I'm the one that's best suited for business development, and I need to be talking to a lot of business owners. So I needed more time specifically.
Absolutely. So I was able to afford you that. And what's really cool about our relationship and what we want from our relationship, I want to be a mom more with my boys. I don't actually want a full-time job in our business. I do love the things that I do in the business, and I'm going to continue to be part of the business on the financial side and the project management side, but not on the day-to-day necessarily. I can do those things at any time of day. So that was a huge thing, and we accomplished it. You got more time in the business, and I got more time in our household. There was another thing that, we really didn't know how we were going to get consistent childcare. It wasn't working with family. Free isn't always free. We have an episode about that too. We hired our nanny in April, actually on April Fool's. That was her first day. And we have never turned back. It is amazing having a nanny. Lincoln loves the nanny. We love the nanny. And it's really changed our ability to have more time, more focused and concentrated time in our business to really get where we're going.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's been hugely influential when we looked at, so the goals we need to make and da-da-da-da. What was the big constraint? Time.
And mostly my time. Because if we didn't have the baby or it fell through, babysitter or that fell through, then I was the one taking care of the children. And oftentimes I wasn't the one doing the checklist stuff that's really important, actually getting the thing going and moving forward.
There were a lot of dominoes that would start to fall when we couldn't have the childcare consistently.
Right. And then I would get some kind of purchase and then it would be knocked right back down, So it wasn't really great. And then another thing that we did was we hired additional people this year. And it has been a true game changer. It's also contributed to more of your time being spent in the higher level stuff in our business, in the structural stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a key role that we were not able to replace. So somebody that didn't work out last year, they've been with us for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
There was nowhere else for them to go.
Right.
In terms of upward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They got a great opportunity with another company and said, you know what? You got to take that.
Yeah.
Right? And also, the type of work that we're doing here is changing with AI and
so much.
And it wasn't what they wanted to do. And it's like, look, thank you for what you've done.
Yeah.
And go forth and prosper. So what that left us doing, though, was looking at the different things that person fulfilled in their role. And we took those roles over. We split them, you and me, for a year.
Yep. Yeah. Oh boy, what a grueling year.
What a grueling year. And again, it was the time constraints that were imposed on us by having a second child and all these other things that we talked about that made us look at really closely, okay, it's not can you do it, it's who else can do it and should do it.
And what's wonderful that we found out was we simplified the tasks, actually, the specific things and the processes, enough that we could bring somebody on and train them to do it even better than we could. Because if you're doing anything at 20% or 10%, 15, whatever percentage you're doing it at, if it's not 100 and that's the only thing that you focus on, and you bring somebody in and that's all they focus on, even if they did it at 75% as good as you, it's still better than you because it's more than what you can give it. So we were able to get real clarity on those things, those roles, the specific tasks that they would be doing. And we are so ecstatic about the results that we're already receiving.
Yeah, I'd love to give a shout out here to our 2 newest team members. That's Barbara and Glenn, who are just cranking out all this amazing content on behalf of our clients and Digital Harvest, our business, and the Babies in Business podcast. So you see any of the posts and stuff coming up lately or the blogs, that is all Barbara's doing. And I bet you can tell if you're a longtime listener, it's gotten a lot better because I'm not doing it anymore. Right? We spend more time cooking up better topics and things like that versus doing the writing itself, somebody else is better equipped and more interested and excited about it than you probably are as a business owner.
They can be more creative, give more time to it. It's been really, really awesome.
So I don't think we actually said what our lesson was, but to
we didn't.
It's the lesson that we put was first you gotta get clarity, then match actions to goals. And the secret statement that Rachel gave you was, so when we do this so that we can,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And you connect your aspiration, your goal to something real, tangible, something that you, I think, feel like you need to do.
Yeah, if you have energy behind it, we need this or else. Like if that answer is we need this or we're in the poorhouse, we need this or our mortgage will default, we need this. Like, I hope you're not in that situation where it's that dire. But sometimes it is those circumstances that are make it or break it that get us to move our butt.
Yes. Yes.
And those are powerful. And those things are lessons. I'm hoping, again, that those are not the lessons that you are learning here or from your life, but just really, really excited to hopefully give you some tools that can help you out in accomplishing those goals that you have. And reassessing. If you have goals that haven't been accomplished, bag them, put them in the garbage, and pick new ones. Because if they've not been happening, they're not aligning with what you really, really want and what is going to get you that fulfillment in your life. That's it, period. Don't feel bad about it. Chuck them.
So good. What a year 2024 has been.
Yes.
It's not without its own ups and downs.
Sure.
But it sure beats like 4 years ago, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I just feel like we're so much different. It's really cool to see the relationship that you and I have.
Sure.
And how we support each other as partners, not just in business, but in our life and with our children. And it's just been a really fun adventure with you.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. Well, we always ask for this. We have something different that we want to share with you today. If you've been listening now, past couple episodes, you know that we are going to be sharing the Babies in Business podcast at the B2B Expo in Albuquerque, New Mexico on Wednesday, January 15th. That expo is all day long, all business professionals welcome, and it's at the Albuquerque Convention Center. We're going to have this really fun activity at our booth, and we're looking for some local support. Okay, yes. You're going to come in, you're going to, in front of everybody. Okay, this is a challenge. This is a contest.
For a reason.
There are prizes to win. All right. You're going to take a baby doll. You're going to change its diaper. You're going to change its clothes.
And put the clothes back on.
Put them back on,
yep.
All while answering questions rapid fire from me or Rachel. The fastest times at the end of the day win some great prizes. And it's going to be a ton of fun. We're hoping to have 100 or more meaningful conversations that day with local entrepreneurs and business owners.
And laughs. Gosh, come on. If for nothing else, just come down and laugh with us because it's going to be hysterical, I dare say.
It is. And I think if there's one thing entrepreneurs love, it's a good challenge and some competition.
Yes.
And I expect to see that in full force. So we're going to be there on Wednesday, the 15th of January. The booth number is booth 19.
At the Albuquerque Convention Center.
And it's the B2B Expo. You can look that up online and register for that. I believe registration is online. And I actually don't know if there's a fee or not.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know parking might have a fee. So
plan
come out
accordingly.
and have some fun.
Yeah. So with that, thanks for listening to our podcast. Yet another week, another year down. So happy 2025. If you haven't already, go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to this, leave us that 5-star review, leave a comment. Okay? People love to read your comments, find out what's in the podcast for them. With that, we'll see you next year.
We do have a community question. It's going to be up on social media and in the blog. What are you proud of that you have accomplished in 2024? We'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear what you have accomplished because it's really great to shout people out.
Yeah. Brag about it. We'd love to cheer you on. Thanks for listening.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.